Hi, I'm Jon Atack,
I'm Ursula Wake.
and this is Lyrical Wax. Along the way, we will read lyrics, poems, pieces of writing by other people, but we shall also intersperse these with some of our own writings.
Yes.
We will. Including poems that we've written about our own relationship, which has been somewhat unusual. We set about borrowing from Marquez Love in the Time of Cholera and thought about calling a collection Love in the Time of Corona, but sadly quite a variety of other people have already done this, so the thought was not original enough, I'm afraid. So we will think of something far more obscure to make a reference to, perhaps the Earl of Rochester or something like that.
That would be fun.
Yes, fruity laugh. This started that about 5 years ago. I abandoned my subscription to a dating website, and because I was tired of meeting people who were incredibly unsuitable, let's say, and it didn't seem that there could ever be anybody who would fit with my significantly eccentric personality. But not being a very clever bear, I didn't, and not really having the time for such things, I just abandoned the profile and left it there. So over that 5-year period, a fair amount of approaches have been made, and I would look at the email and go, "Ooh, not really." And that would be the end of that. And I did once respond, and to do that you have to pay a month's subscription, which is £20. And I responded to this woman, and if you're out there, she called herself Out Stealing Horses, which I thought was an interesting name.
Yeah.
And she didn't grace me with a response, and so that was £20 flushed away.
She was too busy stealing horses.
Exactly. And luckily I don't have any horses, because she might have come round and stolen mine. But then I received a little note and looked at the profile and thought, well, I will at least send one of these free one-liners, which basically says, "I don't have a subscription." And I sent that off, and you responded to that and said that you hoped I'd get a subscription. I thought, well, this is... And having looked at the profile, I went and rushed out. I did straight away, got a subscription and responded. And I remember saying that I thought it would be churlish not to respond to such a pleasant. And you said, "Well, don't feel you have to," which is very encouraging.
I'd better respond. Okay. You really don't have to.
So
through gritted teeth, I'd rather not.
And you thought after our first conversation, no, that's for later on, but that's you have to keep watching to find out what I was going to say there. Would you like to read us something about this?
So this poem is about the very start of this relationship that started during COVID-19 lockdown. So it was a very slow start, and partly, as John's explained, because he didn't even have us. He was sort of this strange thing floating around the ether without really being aware of it. And yet I spotted him.
She did.
So this poem is called Photo. Man on mountain, man in suit, man at beach bar, man fit, man successful, man fun, man indeterminable from man, poor creatures. Then there he was, man in front of hedge, man smiling into the camera, through the camera, and into me. Pleasure at being alive, satisfaction at being exactly that person encased in just that skin. Nonchalant in his proper shirt, with his anachronistic moustache. Not pretending anything, but hoping something, or else why be there? Oh, and the unusually thorough head of dark hair. and the big nose I've always swung for. I imagined a shyness, a kindness, an ambiguousness. All that from a photo in the corner of my phone. Turned out I was right and I was wrong, and I fell totally right through his hedge.
Luckily for me, anachronistic moustache. Futuristic moustache.
Orwellian.
Well, 1984 moustache.
Just literally Orwell's moustache.
Eric Blair. Was wondering whether Eric Blair and Tony Blair were related. Eric Blair being George Orwell's actual name. I'm not sure. Maybe they were. Would have thought.
We have to bring Tony Blair into our love poetry.
Well, you had to bring Eric Blair into our love poetry. But
I had a reason.
Yeah, but you think my moustache looks like his moustache. I'm profoundly insulted now.
John's now going to read another poem which follows on chronologically.
Yeah, this was written very early on. 2 weeks ago, you sensibly said, it works on paper. And I realised that not only had it never worked in real life before, but it had never worked on paper either. How wonderful if real life could come true. And that was before we had met in the flesh. That was after talking on Google Meet.
On Google Meet.
Yeah.
I think that was actually when we were still just messaging and emailing each other, because that was the point at which I said, it works on paper, let's meet up for a socially distanced kind of Jane Austen kind of walk.
A walk 2 meters apart. Yeah.
That's
With
right.
our little
Yeah.
masks on. It would have been brilliant.
And
Biohazard suit.
So that's when you suggested setting up the Google Meet thing.
Yeah.
So actually we hadn't even, it was all just messages and emails up until that point.
And one photograph of you.
Yeah.
Looking very serious. Okay. And that takes us on to...
So I'm
Another
going to
one of
read
yours.
another poem, keeping the chronology going. So these other two poems we're going to read today are from a period where we had met, but
Kept our distance.
for reasons of social distancing and lockdown, there had been no physical contact.
No physical contact whatsoever. It's like the high school dance with the chaperones making sure you don't actually touch any of the nuns.
So, no nuns in this particular poem.
Not one.
This is called You're Keeping Me Up. Back from your place, the chat around me grates at what I need, and I half doze off to block it out and sit among my thoughts of you. But later, alone, I cannot sleep. I simmer, scalp to soul, with thoughts of you. A restless night then, and when I fully wake, the first thing that I recognise is a gleaming thought of you.
I do love that. It's so good. Having written poetry for 50 years now, I've had a variety of muses over the years, people who've inspired me to write. But apart from, I did have one friend who wrote a couple of things about me, but we weren't lovers because we weren't gay at that point, probably. So they weren't love poems. They were observational poems. So to actually have somebody writing poetry about, that's inspired by me is really something quite splendid. I really like it. So thank you. That's a great poem. I really like it. So here's I've written a great deal of poetry in the last few weeks. We clocked past 100 poems, in fact, about 3 months in. So I am prolific, I think, is the word that's used.
I think that is the word.
Garrulous is another word for it.
Yes, and I think the numbers, although there was a point at which I think you were a little bit questioning of why I hadn't quite written as many poems about you as you'd written about me, but I think the number of words that you have produced on paper about me versus compared to the number I produced about you is actually quite realistic in terms of the number of words we produce in general.
She won't stop talking. Why don't you give it a rest? Rabbit, 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 rabbit. Did you hear what she just said about me? What a thought.
What a thought. And nobody who watches these videos will have any idea what I'm talking about the fact that
you're
you like
going
to
on
talk.
and on and on.
You're going to read something?
Probably. It's Jake Thackeray. She goes on again, on again, on again, on again. And it's about me, not you. He goes on again, on again. Rabbit, rabbit. Formal face. This will not be the last hesitation. But this is still the time of hesitation. Will my gushing scare you? Is poetry allowed? Or will it stimulate some unknown panic, foreboding, rather than fulfillment? I give my heart quickly. I'm reluctant to take it back, a constant star by which to set the compass if your heart demands the journey. Bound, broken, and debased, I care nothing for folly, for reputation, only for words that sing and the exact power of love. The next few weeks will calm my vacillation, bind me to the shine, or puff out the light. Prepare for the worst, but anticipate the best. So a little bit of advice for the children there.
And of course, the fact that we've embarked on this project together is the spoiler. We are still together, so something good came out of what happened. Yeah, we are our own spoiler.
Yeah, we are.
I think we need that on a t-shirt.
Yes, we will have to have merch for the channel. I hate that word. People have merch. You have little mugs with Ursula written on them.
I like that
T-shirts
idea.
with my nose.
I like the idea of so many people around the globe having my name on a mug. Why wouldn't I like that?
There is something special about that. I'm sure that was what inspired Winston Churchill, the thought there'd be Toby jokes with his face on one day. This has been Lyrical Wax. We will continue with the soap opera of our relationship through poetry.
To some extent.
We sat on the edges of the seats, as well as discussing the work of other writers along the way. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm Jon Atack.
I'm Ursula Wake. Thank you. Goodbye.
See you next time.